Hi, it's Ray from Pro Shaper Sheet Metal in Charlton, Massachusetts. And what we got here is a Lotus 9, one of 24 built back in 1955. And I have an extended learning student, Harvey, and he's been building a new body for this project. I've shown a bunch of pictures of this on Facebook, and now we can see it on a YouTube video. And Harvey bought it about 20 years ago as a project, and he's recently retired, and he took my class, and he told me about this project and how he wanted to do it, and he had no experience whatsoever. And first part of the project was the frame was all smashed up. The original owner of this car was from California, and he'd raced it for many years, and in the early 90s he decided he was going to commission somebody to build a whole new chassis and body. And we don't know who did it, but somebody in California in the early 90s built a whole new tube frame based on the measurements from the original and the original body, and they made an aluminum body. And there's still parts of it here, but what happened was that the owner of the previous owner from California raced it after it got all totally rebuilt, and it got hammered really bad in the back and the front, and the only good body panels were this piece here and the door, and there's a little bit of the front fender section which was all crumpled up. All of this was kind of thrown away. So Harvey was lucky enough to have a local friend that had another Lotus 9 that we were able to copy using my flexible shape patent system. And Harvey hammered out all these panels and wheeled them all out, shrunk them all on my shrinking facilitators, and he also got some help from some of the other students in my classes, and it's coming along pretty nice. And this section, the rear section, is basically all new. This is all new. The wells are going to have to be planished a little bit here. They still need a little attention. And we're trying to utilize the front body section, which will be that right front section. And this was crumpled up about 18 inches shorter than what you see now. And when Harvey brought all the pieces in, it was during a class, and I had like 3 people from the class on this end and 3 people on this end pulling in the opposite directions as hard as they could, and I had a nice big cutting torch here throwing a lot of heat into this area here where it was really crumpled up, and it was really crumpled up over in here too. And with a combination of the heat and a slapper, we were able to pull it out to almost the correct length that it's supposed to be, and now it's taking its correct form here. So what's left is a lot of residue from that really hard wrinkle. And about a month ago or so, one of my other students came up for some extra time in the shop and helped Harvey out. And it was probably his first time that he ever planished aluminum. And I gave him a quick lesson here, and he ironed it out pretty decent. There's still a lot of lumpiness here. He was a little heavy on the hammer work, so he's got a big bulge, mushroom bulge stretch right here. But overall, it's a lot better than when he started. So that was a big improvement. So what I'm going to do in this video is show, I'm not going to do the whole thing because it takes a good amount of time. I'm going to show how to remove this bulge and how to smooth this down a lot better. It might not be perfect, but we'll get it a lot closer tonight. We're going to keep the length of the video to a manageable length. So we're going to do a little section here and show the shrinking technique, and also a technique that I use now with this little Harbor Freight orbital sander, which I did a review on before, and I just can't say enough about these things. I love these little Velcro hook and loop foam pads with that Harbor Freight. And I also have this is strictly a rotary one that has the Velcro. I use that too. And this is orbital. So we saw the video, I hope, of making the slapper out of the back of one of these common would be this type here. The video of making that slapper from the piece of metal that holds that back of that chair on. There's the slapper. And then I also have a video where I bought the dollies on eBay, and we've cleaned them all up now. So we're going to be using that cleaned up dolly and that new slapper on this. Now, in a situation like this, you could use a mobile English wheel. They do have a small mobile English wheel. You can make one yourself and you can roll this out, and that's a pretty efficient way of doing it. You can also use a mobile planishing hammer. Both of those ways you got to be careful because it's so easy to overstretch. But overstretching is sort of like a byproduct that's almost going to happen no matter what method you use, and it's easily remedied by shrinking it back. And that's the beautiful thing about doing panel work, is you can have a panel, whether steel or aluminum, overdeveloped and easily shrink it back to where it needs to be. In this case, in aluminum, I've adapted to using the torch. I make these lead short bags, and this works really good. You'll be able to see it. Hopefully the camera can pick up the subtlety of it. Right here, this is probably puffed up about as much as close to an eighth of an inch high right in here. So when you rub your hand out into it, it's obvious that it's there, and it's not supposed to be. So we're going to try to stress all hand methods rather than tool methods. Tool methods being an air planishing hammer, which can be expensive, or a mobile English wheel. We're just going to be using the simple dolly and slapper. So we're going to start out with trying to planish this micro surface anomalies in here. It's actually pretty smooth. It's just got the bump there, and there's just little tiny low spots, and they've all got to be averaged out, and in the process of averaging them out, this bump will get bigger. And right now what we have on here is Dykem, and Dykem is a good tool, but I don't like it on steel so much because I use a shrinking disc on steel. I can use a shrinking disc on aluminum too, but I've really adapted or recently changed to using this lead shot bag and a torch to shrink the aluminum, and it works really easy, and it doesn't mark up the panel. The shrinking disc will mark the aluminum up a little bit. On steel you don't get anything significant at all. And on steel, when you do shrinking with a shrinking disc, I prefer using the big magic markers. But here we got the Dykem, and I found the Dykem really doesn't work well with the shrinking disc because it gums up on the disc really bad. So what we're going to do is take that new dolly, or refurbished dolly, and the new slapper, and we're going to just slap this area a little bit more. And as we slap it, you're going to see the dark spots are going to be the low spots, and the bright spots will be the high spots. You'll get a little of the action right off. Let me lower my chair here a little bit. And this area in here is actually a little bit of a reverse curve too. The curve is going this way and the curve is going that way. That's a reverse curve. So I got to be careful on it. When you're doing a reverse curve, you can always bite on the edges. Now on this slapper, we've got a little bit of a crown in it, so we'll just watch to see if we do get any bites, but I don't think we will. Now that's just a general planishing, and let's see if we can get it a little more specific. And what I'm going to do is hit it with this little sander, and that'll have the effect of knocking off the Dykem red dye off of the high spot. What we're seeing here is actually, instead of using a slapper, which has this great big surface, Fred, who was helping out Harvey, used a hammer on this, and that compression stretched out the metal a little bit and caused these little dimples. So all of those dimples are eventually going to have to be averaged out here. And that's going to take a lot of planishing with the slapper to make that happen. All right, here's my high spot right here, and I'm going to outline it with this big marker. It's right here. And I'm going to torch shrink that in. Got the torch already. Got, I think, a number 2 tip on here. It's a small tip. And all you need to do is kind of warm that up. So I'm going to use that lead shot bag. We make these lead shot bags and sell them in ProShaper tool section, proshaper.com. And I'm going to wave that torch over it. That's going to cause the metal to get more plastic in a sense. I'm going to take the shot bag. And then we will hit it with some water. We probably heated that metal up to about 2 or 3, maybe 400 degrees tops. Remember, aluminum melts at about 1250. So now quite a bit of that came out. We still got a little bit right here. So it'll probably take maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 shrinks to get that all down. And that surface will get better and better as we do. So there's my main target there right now. Light this up again. That's come down quite a bit. I don't know if we can see that now if you get up close. It's still a little warm, so you got to get it back to room temperature to get it fully to its room temperature condition. Now what's happening here is the metal has expanded. I always use this visualization to show what happens to the metal. The metal was previous like this, and then through the stretching process of smoothing it out, it got overdeveloped a little bit, and a crown is created like this, which formerly was like that, and then the crown is created. So then you have this crowned mushroom condition, and you want to get rid of it. You want to bring it back to where it's supposed to be. So now what happens is you introduce the heat, which makes it more plastic, which means pliable. And if you've got the bag in behind it, now you've got something to counter the actions of the slapper. And as you have the metal plastic, it's up this way, and you're hitting it with the slapper, what happens is it forces into itself like this. And you got to, I always say at my classes, metal is the exact same thing as clay. Everybody knows you can take clay and push it into itself. Well, you can do the same thing with metal. You can pull it out, that's stretching, and you can pull it in, push it in, that's shrinking. And it just takes a little bit more force. With clay, it's done with your fingers. With metal, it's done with all the automotive tools that we use and shaping tools that we use. So that's down quite a bit now. One more application again right here. We'll probably do it, maybe 4, but we got at least one more application. You got to be careful you don't go too crazy with the torch heat here and make a big hole. So give it a good amount of heat. That's feeling a lot nicer now. Now, we'll take the dolly right here. When you're doing any panel work, whether you're making a panel or repairing a panel, the best course of action is always look for the worst part of the job. And my field of action here is just this black circle. So right here is the worst part right now. I'm going to bring these lows up. So. Now in the process of bringing those up, I'm creating another high here because I'm reforging that metal back together again and leveling it, getting some of those hammer dimple marks out. But by doing all that hammering or slapping, it's going to increase the surface area and pop up. So I do have now a little lump right here. So now I'm going to have to hit that with the torch right here and shrink that. Now we give the torch action again, right there. You can see it swelling up when you put the torch on it. You act fast here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to hit it one more time right there. You don't want to get the torch too close either. It's in the deep blue there. It's like 6,000 degrees warm. That's feeling a lot better. Now, you can sort of see where I've been planishing with the bag and the slapper and the heat. It's actually smoothed out quite a bit right in there. And the whole bump is gone. It's nice. It's almost where it needs to be now. We won't be able to totally get it right. Well, it does seem a little bit high still here when you run your hand around the whole thing, but that will slowly keep going down as we keep doing the shrink operation on it. But let's take and sand it and see what the surface quality looks like now. Now this is a 120 grit, and it's not removing much material. Now you can see that removes some of that micro denting. You are removing maybe a 1/2 thousandths of an inch, or maybe, I don't even think that much. It's just a couple little pieces of dust that fall to the floor here. So now we've got some here that you can actually feel with your finger. So I'll take the dolly, and I want to localize that. So in my dolly polishing, I was telling how you can use all little sections of the dolly. So I'm going to use that. Now, this is the great thing about using this little orbital sander. It creates a surface condition that I call like the blackboard. It wipes it clean, and it allows you to see where you're going. Now, just for example here, I'm going to hit it right here, and you're going to see the mark. And can you pick up that mark with the camera? It's a nice shiny spot versus the satiny spot of the sanded 120 surface condition left by that orbital sander. So now what I'm going to do is I'll show you how to use the dolly to target something. So I'm going to use this little edge of the dolly. I put my hand back there, and I kind of have a sixth sense of where I'm supposed to be, but I don't have Superman eyes, so I have to figure out exactly where I'm at. So, oh, look where I am. Do you see it? Right there. There's a nice little shiny spot. So now I move the dolly down. Whoop, not enough. Oh, look at that. I hit the spot. There was the spot I was going after, right there. And then that spot is gone. Now let's try the same thing over here. We got a little divot. It's actually perceptible with your finger. It's probably 10/1000ths of an inch deep. We're going to take and, okay, so I was right there. I moved the dolly over. I was a little high. That one's proven to be a little bugger. So again, we wipe out the blackboard. There we go. So I got him. He was a little reluctant to give up, but he did. Now, in the process of chasing after that little demon, I've got a little bump there, and now I got to shrink the bump down. So gonna heat that up, right, localizing that spot. Get a little soapy water, cool it off. I'm going to bring the sander over here again. And the object is to get every one of these little divots. We'll get them all cleaned out until we get a surface that doesn't have those little divot blemishes. Then we still do have a little bit of high in here. We'll continue to keep shrinking that down, and then we'll start expanding out like this. But I don't want to make the video too long, so this is a good introduction and overview of what we're trying to do here. And we'll make this part 1, and in part 2 we'll get this all nice and smooth. That will probably be next week or so. So please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be offering these videos hopefully on a weekly basis, doing complicated metal shaping tasks such as this. And please visit our ProShaper.com website and see the multitude of services and classes and tools that we offer. Thank you very much. It's Wray.